going on a summer holiday. Do the things we always wanted to. So we're going on a summer holiday to make our dreams come true. For me and you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Gooner Gathering, where we are definitely getting serious about this whole transfer situation. How you doing, everybody?
Absolutely.
My name is Gooner Lee Meads, joined by Arsenal Domination. Dom, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing very well, and I thought it was lovely for Mikel to serenade us at the start of the show.
It was a nice touch. And hello, Luca.
Hi,
Luca is
Luca.
in the house nice and early. Hello, mate. It's good to see you there. So, yeah, Dom, what you been up to? You been busy?
Yeah, been busy, but always good to be here. Always good to be here and talk about Arsenal. We're talking about what the three transfers that have all arrived. Yeah.
That's it. We've got a whole heap of them lined up, ready to go, or maybe we haven't. But it's we were just saying this off air, weren't we, mate? We might as well let the people know what we were saying. Um, is it really a surprise to you that we are, a few days into transfer window number two now, and this manager still hasn't brought anybody in? Is that a surprise to you at all, mate?
No, not to me. I mean, I think I think Liverpool have got one officially done and have two here we goes. We're in a position where we've got two here we goes and none in. I think players are on holiday. Some players have been on international duty.
Yeah.
I think these will happen and they'll be announced. By all accounts, Mendy and Kepa are done, subject to literally final
Yeah.
sort of touches. But basically, agreements are done and legally watertight. So it's just a question of when they're going to be announced. And Arsenal working on other deals. I think what sort of throws it into a bit more sort of light is obviously those competing in the Club World Cup have had to get these deals done early,
Precisely.
which shows it can be done. But it also meant that I think in a couple of cases, sort of overpayments were made, or they had to sort of get terms they didn't necessarily want. And in fairness to Manchester City, they walked away from various targets because of that. And I think you have to give them respect for that. But does that mean that they've done deals, but deals they didn't necessarily want to do that they might otherwise have done differently had they not had the Club World Cup? So I think it swings and roundabouts. And as we said last week, and as we said off air, the time to panic is early July, not mid-June.
Or even going into August when we kick off the fixtures, which
Yeah,
we will talk about in just a moment. I'll bring up Luca's comment because it's a very valid one. We're in a very tough game now. We're looking likely to bring in like the likes of his, as we mentioned, Sesko, Zuba we know Kepa. Um, according to Luca, these aren't exciting signings. This is Luca's opinion. We need Rodrigo, man, and would love Gukares. Do you know what? I love Gukares as well. Why not have both of them, eh?
I mean, we're not going to sign two number nines, and I'm not sure we should. But certainly, I mean, my preference is Gyökeres, but I'm not going to be crying about Sesko
No.
at all. I don't think that there's a massive difference between them. It's very hard to compare stats and styles because they're operating in two very, very different leagues.
Hmm.
But I think Gyökeres is the marginally sort of more ready now. Not to say that Sesko isn't, but I think Sesko has a higher ceiling. I think Zubimendi is an exciting signing, but it's not an exciting position on the pitch. And
Yeah.
Kepa, I think, is a smart signing, but again, not an exciting one. I do agree here with Lucas, someone like Rodrigo, and I think this could be a really hard deal to get done because we keep getting conflicting reports about whether he wants to stay in Madrid, whether he doesn't want to stay in Madrid. And it's very hard to walk away from a side like Madrid, particularly when a new manager comes in. And that's just my fear with this one. And I think we said it the first time this came up on this channel was this is a deal that goes long. You're getting into
Yeah.
mid-August. Alternative options start to go off the board, and you're still not sure if you're getting Rodrigo. That's my concern with this deal. But that would be an exciting one. But I think a
Hmm.
number 9 is exciting regardless of whether it's Sesko or Gyökeres. I think the only real exciting number 9 would be an Isak, but that's just not going to happen in this one. I think you're
For
looking.
nobody, by the way.
nobody. Yeah, not just for Arsenal. You're absolutely right. I think you're then going down to the sort of second tier number 9s, and that's never as exciting. But I think it's exciting from an Arsenal perspective because, well as Havertz has done, and I know that's not a popular opinion in the number
Yeah.
9, he's not clinical enough and does need upgrading. I think that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, I do very much agree, and I think you made a really excellent point on one of your videos on your own channel, mate, about the fact that the number 11, if you'll call it, if the old-fashioned numbers, if you like, the left side is one area that really needs looking at, because we look at stats and stuff like that, and we see the vast majority of Arsenal's goals and attacks come from the right hand side, and so we're talking Saka predominantly, and then the number 9, which actually that has been Havertz for the vast majority of but perhaps the last couple of seasons,
Yeah,
but there's not
certainly
really been a consistent thing coming out from Martinelli or a Trossard. Sorry,
Yeah,
Tom.
I mean, I was going to say, I think Havertz had sort of 12 months at number 9, didn't he? Because he sort of started in January and then got injured in
Yeah,
January.
yeah,
Before that, it would have been Jesus, wouldn't it? And but you're absolutely right. I mean, I think, look, a number 9 is going to come in, but I think the number 11, the left side is really critical, and I think Martinelli. I think because teams drop deeper against us now, Martinelli's natural game is to exploit space, and there is less space. So I think that's partly why we're seeing a drop off there.
yeah,
And I think Trossard is a decent player, but in a side going for the title, he should be a squad player, and that's why you want that sort of other option. And Martinelli can go to the right, but so can Rodrigo. And I think Rodrigo would be a real upgrade. What you really want is, and I think, if I was to upgrade one position this summer, even over the number 9, although I think a number 9 is an area we need an upgrade, but my number 1 choice to upgrade from our starting 11 would be that left wing, and not to slight Martinelli, but because I think it
yeah.
balances out the attack. It's too right-hand dependent.
I agree.
And I think if you can exploit the left-hand side more, I think you'll get more out of the right-hand side because there'll be more space, because defenders will have to worry about both flanks rather than just the right flank, and you'll get more out of your number 9. So I think that's sort of, for me, why it's my number 1 priority, even though number 9 is obviously another area. Just on Luca's comment here, if that's all right, I'll just quickly sort of move on to it.
I've got it.
Yeah, shall I read it out, or do you want to?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, because I think it links on really nicely, and it's sort of a good question here. What I don't understand is why we didn't go for Gyökeres if a player wanted an Arsenal move. Why did Arteta choose Sesko over Gyökeres? Sesko, what do people see in this guy? So he's a project. So I think Arsenal are interested in both, and I think both players want to come to Arsenal at this moment in time. I think what we are doing here is Arsenal are trying to negotiate the best possible deal. Both players at the moment are prioritising Arsenal, reportedly, over any other club. That gives us leverage. The more you can bring the price down, the more money you have to spend elsewhere. So I think Arsenal have chosen between the two. What they're trying to do is leverage the price. And actually, because I don't, and this is my opinion now, not fact, but I think they have a preference for one or the other. We don't know which one it is, but I think the difference is so slight between the two that actually, if, let's say, Sesko is their preferred option and he's 80 million, but they can get Sesko at 60, and I'm just sort of spitballing numbers here, they'll probably go for Sesko because that's 20 million. If it's Sesko's their priority at 80 million and Gyökeres is 75 million, and I'm just using this to illustrate a point here, I think they'll probably go for Gyökeres because the 5 million, not Gyökeres, sorry, Sesko, because the 5 million difference is minimal. So I think this is all going to come down to financial terms to give them maximum flexibility elsewhere in the market. I think to the second point about what he sees in Sesko, I think what Arteta sees in Sesko is a player that can play in the Premier League now, or thinks he can play in the Premier League. We don't know about either of them. They've never played in the Premier League, although Gyökeres has played in the Championship. I think Sesko is, the reason I'd go Gyökeres, funny enough, is he's a little bit older as a player and a little bit more experienced, but what I like about him is he can drift to the left, and I think that allows your left winger to drift in and makes that attack more flexible, which I don't think Sesko has. And I think the other criticism of Sesko would be his first touch is sometimes lacking. What I think he does have is real physical presence in the box. He is hardworking. He's quite instinctive. He is not afraid to have a shot. And while his numbers don't appear to pop, he was playing in quite a poor Leipzig side, and he still does average. He still did get 13 goals last season, quite a poor side, and the number of touches he
in a
got in the
difficult
box
league.
in a difficult league, and the number of touches he got in the box was actually quite low for a number 9. But interestingly, his positions in the box were quite a lot, including people sort of break it down and say he's getting in good positions. What they didn't do was find him, which is then why his touches and goals sort of weren't as high as necessary. As you would want to see. So in a better side, creating more chances, they should increase. And I think what Arsenal see in him is just someone that can really massively improve, but can play now as well. And, very much fits the way Arsenal play, which is can come short to receive the ball, can pop it off, can then move forward into the box and likes to get into the box, which is slightly different to Havertz, who sort of drifts wide a little bit. And I think that is what Arsenal see in Sesko. But my preference is still Gyökeres, but it's a bit like Arsenal. It's not a massive preference.
I think it's really hard to judge someone until you actually see him in the shirt. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I am very much like you. Obviously, I have a slight preference with Gyökeres only because I've seen what he's done in the Champions League a bit more, and he has played in England before. But I say that is a project. I think is a little harsh for a player who we've already made the point. He scored, I think you said 13 in the league. Give him a bit of service, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But at this stage, where we are at the moment, it is all speculation. It is all speculation until something gets over the line. So I think it's probably a good time to just say, let's wait and see on this, and just keep an eye on it.
Just very quickly, Lee, do you
Yeah.
think this sort of project label, it's, and I'm not criticising Luca here because it's been
No, of
used
course
quite a
not.
lot by other people.
Yeah.
But do you think, because with Gyökeres, he's sort of got this ready now label because he's 26, much more experienced, scoring goals, in a weaker league, but still scoring goals. And I think that's important to mention. Whereas Sesko scoring less goals in a tougher league, but because he's younger and people are talking about he's good now, but he really could be something special in a few years' time. Do you think that's what's leading to this sort of project label, because people don't think he's a finished article, whereas Gyökeres is probably entering like his peak now? What Gyökeres now is what Gyökeres is, whereas Sesko has that room to grow. Do you think that's sort of leading to some of that label around him?
Very much so. Very much so. I think people have seen what Gyökeres has done, and I see you there, Sam. I think unless it's my brother, it is Sam. Right. Let's bring Sam in, and I'll while we're talking. Here we go. Let's just add to the stage. Hello, Sam. I'll get you in just a minute, mate.
All right.
So, yeah, people have seen what Gyökeres has done against Manchester City. They've got very excited about it, and they've seen it's getting the big publicity and everything like that. Sesko doesn't get so much publicity, and I certainly haven't seen that much as him. But then calling someone a project player, anyone remember Michael Owen when he came on the scene at 18? 18 years old, turned into an absolute predator at Liverpool. Robbie Fowler in a generation before that at Liverpool. So it's very much the same.
Wayne Rooney won after.
Exactly. So
we're not saying that they will definitely become that, right? Alan Smith was that and then didn't turn into that.
Alan Smith at Leeds, you mean? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I get what you mean.
He's not Alan Smith at Arsenal yet.
No, not Smudger. No, but as I said, it's very difficult to judge what will happen. But either, as long as we get a striker to boost what we already have, that's what I'm happy with. At this point, I will cut off. Sam, how you been, mate?
Yeah, I've been good. It's been a little while. It's a little bit weird stepping back in because it has been quite a while, even post-season, I think. So,
I'm quite impressed we can see your face, to be fair.
I know. I'm getting really surprised. I don't want to act too quickly.
It
must be an instant where I can have more than a couple of seconds, because even on my previous work, it's not really worked. But no, I'm doing okay. doing all right. The post-season kind of lull that we get between now and the obviously the 21s championships going on at the moment. Playing Germany tonight, I believe.
Yes, that's correct. 8 o'clock kickoff.
And obviously the women's coming up too with that competition. So we have not got a summer of football, but we've got some football between now and obviously start of the season. The fixtures were actually leaked this morning, an hour before they went out too.
Yes, I saw this.
Yeah, so at 8 o'clock. So the fixtures came out at 9. So at 8 o'clock, I just opened up my phone before I started work, and somebody was like, "Well, we start the season with Man United," and I was like, I looked at the time and I was like, it's an hour before. So it's somebody making. But then when it came out that it was actually Man United, I was like, oh, that's not great, is it?
They didn't just get that right; they got the entire first 6
the whole
right.
list. Yeah,
I know. I haven't really looked at it. It's I think it's silly season, isn't it? Because we've obviously made the signings that we have kind of not even one yet. Well, we definitely know one. But I suppose this kind of sets up people to kind of go, oh my God, we've got this in August, we've got this in May. Let's all go and have a panic and a massive meltdown on social media. So I've seen little bits of that, but I'm like, do you know what? That is still a little bit in the past. You've got some time between now and then. So don't. Yeah. I guess it's perfect, isn't it, for people to start going, oh my God, we've got this in August. We're never going to win those games. And I'm like, just wait till it starts. Look at the situation now and look at it when it starts, and then make your judgments on things. So yeah, that was. I've literally just seen. The only thing I've seen is that we played Man United first game, and then there was somebody that was saying in August or September we've got like these runner tough games as well. So
yeah, first 6 see us go to United, Liverpool. We play City, and we go to Newcastle.
Oh, that's
and we got Forest as well.
Oh, that's amazing! What a start! But it sets a marker, though, doesn't it? If you go in and win those games, like it sets a marker straight away that you're serious about what you're doing.
And that's the important thing. We have to be serious about starting off the Premier League campaign, don't we, Dom?
We do.
Two things before I say anything else. Hello to Champions25 in the chat. Hello, Emerson Crozier, who's just joined the chat as well. It's lovely to see you all on the show tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. Right, so yes, now I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, fixtures are fixtures. We have to play everybody at some sort of stage. However, I do find it a little concerning that a whole fixture list has been completely leaked early doors. Be that as it may, because I can't do anything about that. I mean, we do start, as you guys have alluded to. I'd say you got Europa Cup finalists. Don't forget Man United on August 17th. It's going to be a Sky Sports game, I think. So hopefully we can get things set up, and we'll start the season on air with a live chat on. That'll be fun. And then Leeds at home. That's our first home fixture, and then we get the 23rd, and on 30th we've got Liverpool. The champions away at Anfield. So I'd say that's a pretty tough start. Your reaction to them?
I mean, it is a tough start, right? So, and I agree with you. So I've got a sort of video coming out on this tomorrow morning, which kind of says exactly what you've just said, that you've got to place everyone at some point. Yeah. I think the sort of few key things here about this start, right? Number one, I think it's really important Arsenal do get many of their major signings in before then, but you actually want them in ready for pre-season, certainly for the pre-season tour to settle people in. But secondly, sort of a lot of the noise around Arsenal is that they are planning on starting the season as it's similarly as they did personnel-wise to the end of last season, which is fairly similar to how they ended the season before, where they were, of course, flying in the hope that everyone is fit. And in some ways, that might actually be helpful because there'll be familiarity there, and they're going to have to start quite strongly. And that will, and then you sort of feed the other players sort of into the starting lineup over time, but also off the bench, whether that be Šeško, whether that be Zubamendi, and it's sort of assumed that Partey stays. So that could be sort of a blessing in disguise in some ways for Arsenal, because I think familiarity is going to be important, because teams often start the season slow because new players are trying to settle in and sort of understand the formation and what have you. So that could be an advantage. I think the other thing here is it sort of focuses mind and sort of go, you have to really hit the ground running. If you're playing a so-called lesser side early on, sometimes your sort of attention and your concentration and your desire to sort of hit your form early can sometimes not be there. And Arsenal had a tough start last season and started it reasonably well. So, I don't think there's anything to fear here. But I think the key thing about all these fixtures is you've got to play them all at some point. So let's get them done. What you really want to do is avoid back-to-back really difficult games either side of a Champions League fixture, which is what Arsenal have seemingly avoided here by getting so many difficult games early on. So, the fixture list for me is what it is. I'd never find it sort of anything sort of to worry about. I never have.
No, fair enough. Yeah,
Also, just
excuse
quickly,
me.
while you're looking at
Yeah.
that, when Yeri has been involved in a decent Arsenal England attack, he's started the move. He's carried the ball out on the left and started a one-touch passing move, which saw the ball fizz across the Germany 6-yard box before Germany cleared. So it looks like Yeri on form.
They played him out of position, didn't they, the other day?
He looks like he's playing on the left again, Sam.
Oh, okay. It's interesting, isn't it?
He is a left-footed player, of course.
Yeah, but as is Saka, but then he very much comes in on his from the other side, doesn't he?
I agree, but you could sort of see why he's been played on the left, but I agree with you.
Emerson has brought up a really excellent point as well, which needs to be spoke about in between he says also note that we play one game, 1 and 2 in the Champions League between Forest and Manchester City. Sorry. So yes, we've got in between that at the start of the season, we do have the Champions League fixtures still to be brought in as well.
Is it Man City at home or Man City away?
Home.
I was going to say, because I've got the chance to be behind enemy lines in the City end this year for the Arsenal City game.
Yeah, no, that one's home. We go there on the second to last game of the season, I think, or certainly towards the end of the season. We go there. Might not be the second to last game, but it's certainly late.
Just say hello. Say hello to Lennon, who's in Twitch chat. Although I'm not sure if they can hear us or not. But I've done something I shouldn't have done. I've started writing in the chat and I can't get out of it. You said, but whilst I'm dealing with this, Dom, you said something about Arsenal wanting to start the season like they did in the previous season. The worry I've got a little bit, and tell me what you think of this, is the fact that obviously we don't know exactly the situation with Gabriel. We don't know exactly the situation with Saliba at centre half. That is my worry, and what sort of cover we might have for starting the season, just in case they're not ready.
Well, Gabriel has said that he expects to be back for pre-season training. So, barring any setbacks, it looks like he might be back for that. Saliba's not reportedly quite minor, so it sounds like he'll be back. But of course, Kivior might still be here. So,
Fair enough. We'll have to wait and.
Oh, sorry, Lee.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's. I think it's probably more the attack that would be worrying most fans are starting. A lot of fans won't want to see Havertz start up front, for instance, and that sort of thing. But
wouldn't worry me in the slightest.
It wouldn't worry me either. Just but also I would also refer sort of people back to the previous season where we scored the most amount of goals we ever scored. So, I think the hope is and my view is that last season was the exception rather than the rule. But I understand that people won't necessarily agree with that.
I will refer to what I've just seen in the Independent and sort of breaking news. So, according to them, Arsenal reached Sesko agreement while Gyökeres talks have collapsed.
Ooh.
So that's what they are saying.
Yeah, I've heard quite a lot of people sniffing around that we've agreed something with Sesko today in quite a few places. So yeah, obviously it's going to be weird. It's going to be a funny one, isn't it? Because I am led to believe that will make some people happy, but on the flip side, that's going to make some people really unhappy as well. I think it's going to be one of those because I think a lot of people, including myself, are still shouting for the Gyökeres deal rather than Sesko. Not that I'm opposed to Sesko, it's just that there's going to be an awful lot of pressure on his shoulders because the person that we get in is expected to do big things. So to put all that pressure on to somebody that is still developing as a football player is going to be a lot. So I do think, I think it's tricky. I think you could have this debate with 25 different people and they would all tell you different things. I think that's the tricky thing about it. But it's obviously which one you're going to be able to get in, because obviously they're just trying to avoid we haven't got anyone in, because that's worst case scenario. So I suppose they've got to jump at which one they can get hold of, and if anything else happens, then great. So I suppose at this point they've just got to get who they can in.
Sam, I was alluding earlier to the fact that I think it's going to come down to which one gives the better financial deal to keep money for other things. But Florian Plattenberg is reporting the opposite of the Independent, which is Arsenal are currently not willing to meet the quoted price from Leipzig. Negotiations continue with him and reportedly Victor Gyökeres. So conflicting reports going on, which I think kind of sums up the transfer window, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because one gives you, or I suppose it's the flip of this as well. One gives you options for the future player in terms of we could have somebody massive. Gyökeres brings that, although it's not guaranteed at all. He brings you that, right, you should have a player that's ready to step in. With Sesko, you've got someone that's got the potential to step in, but whether he can do that straight away is another story, I guess, because yes, it's all. But the same goes for Gyökeres, I think, because again, you can't guarantee that player comes in and sets the world alight. But obviously, it's the difference between a developing player and a player that, I don't know, can you call him proven? That's the thing, you can call him proven at the level that he's in now, but we know that proven at another level and proven at a Premier League level is completely different. So I think either's a gamble, isn't it? You've just got to go which one you feels less of the gamble, I suppose.
I think that's right, Sam. Sorry, Lee, go on.
Carry on, Tom.
Yeah, I sorry. I thought you were still replying on Twitch. Yeah, I think you're right that both are a gamble. I think the only thing I would sort of slightly take issue's a strong word there, would disagree with is I think Sesko is ready to play now. I think he's played a couple of seasons in Germany, for a decent club. But I think you're right that Gyökeres is a sort of, in theory, more ready now because he's sort of, we know what Gyökeres is because he's 26 and in that peak. But and so in theory should be the better player right now. And Sesko, as you allude to, is has the potential to be massive. But I think there is a slight sort of misconception around the fact that Sesko isn't ready at all now. I think he is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair enough. How long do you want to stay for, Sam? I saw your message in the private chat, mate.
Just if now's a good time, I came in a little bit late, and the quiz team's going, "Are you coming, Sam? Are you coming?" And I'm like, "Yes, I promise."
All right, mate. Well, look, thank you very much for jumping in, sir. You got anything else you want to let everybody know about before we go?
Well, we hit the amazing achievement of going Twitch affiliate on my Dark Knights channel on Twitch. So that was really cool. So that's what I've been focusing on and stuff. So yeah, that's about it really.
Fair enough, mate. Well, very much appreciated you coming on and saying hello, Sam. We'll speak to you again another time, mate.
Yeah,
Take
for
care,
sure.
Sam.
Thank you. See you later.
Good
Cheers,
luck in the
mate.
quiz.
Thank you very much. Go on, Sam. There we go. He's out of here now.
I'll tell you what, Lee. We've gone from summer
Yes.
holidays to just the two of us.
That's
We
it.
can make
It's
it if we try. Just the two of us.
you and I.
Indeed.
I think AFC always is being a very naughty boy here, don't you?
I've just seen that. I'm like, what is Merchandinho? I like it.
I
stuff
think
being
you're
sold.
being a naughty boy.
That's quite funny though.
Fair play. I mean, I've not seen that one before.
That's a good joke. I like that. To be fair.
Yeah, fair play. It's good to see you in the chat. Right. I don't know how long I can keep on putting up text on the Twitch chat, but we'll see what happens. My point a little bit ago was talking about the two centre halves and potential cover for them. What did you make of, if I can find it, Arsenal being talked about in the same conversation as could do without a McDonald's advert right now, mate. Of Arsenal being linked with Laporta, the former Manchester City centre half, yesterday.
I didn't see that. I mean, I don't know how old Laporte is these days. And obviously when he was at City, I thought he was. He didn't quite. He had a good season or two, didn't he? There, but then it sort of tinkered off. But I wonder if that was sort of Pep. Sort of, he does tend to sort of love to change his centre halves, and they fall in and out of favour a lot. And I wonder if that was partly it. I'm not convinced I'd necessarily want to go there. I think if I was bringing in a centre half now, let's say Kivior goes for argument's sake, right? And you're bringing in a new defender. I'd like it to be someone like a Diamonde or a Hato or an Antoine Silva, sort of youngish defenders. Because let's be honest, you don't really rotate your centre halves unless you have to. I think they're really critical, particularly in a defensive side like Arsenal, to your base. So you don't want to change it too much. But what you do end up doing is having that youngster that can sort of develop and will be still get minutes. And that's why I prefer that younger one to an older one. Of course, an older one might be happy to sit on the bench, but my preference is to go younger so that, let's say in 3-4 years time, Gabriel sort of moves on. Hato is your man that comes in, and maybe sort of sooner than that you sort of switch them around at the back. I don't know, but that's kind of would be my preference. But I don't know what you think about it.
To answer your question, Laporte is 31. He did go up into. Didn't he go to the Saudi League? I believe. Let me just see. So in Arsenal in the mix. This is the report yesterday. Whether you take it with a pinch of salt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Arsenal in the mix to complete a surprise deal for former Manchester City player Aymeric Laporta from Al Nassr in the summer. We've first seen him in January 2018, and they broke their transfer record by playing for him back then. Here's the thing: it's like you could get an experienced player, and I don't have an issue with that. Really, if the money's reasonable, I don't have a real problem with it. Then it does, you wonder. But I think Kivior will stay personally. I think it's more likely that Zinchenko be your man to go. But yeah, I'm not against this one. Just because
I'm not.
a bit of Premier League experience on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against an experienced player. My preference is for the younger one. I think my concern now would be sort of with that sort of realization that he's sort of been in Saudi for the last few years is how does he transition back? Because there's going to be massive differences between those two leagues, and how will he cope switching back? He does, as you rightly say, have that Premier League experience, but without meaning to sort of be, well, I'm going to be disrespectful to the Saudi league. It is not anywhere near the level of the Premier League, and therefore I would worry about that transition back if he suddenly had to come in. But coming in as a squad player, he's got a little bit more time to find his feet, which might sort of help that transition back. But as I say, I'm not against an experienced player coming in that position. I just have a preference for the younger one coming in as a personal sort of preference.
That's fair enough. You have to bear with me. My technology's not being the best at the moment. It's unusually it's not off the phone where I'm streaming on it, so that's not a major issue. Other major talking point I think of today would be this man,
Yes, indeed.
Lewis Skelly, Miles Lewis Skelly. A lot of reputable sources now are saying it's on the verge of being announced through the club that he's getting a new contract. I think initially was broken by Charles Watts. I think Fabrizio's jumped on this as well. Your thoughts on Lewis Skelly generally, and what his long-term position might be for Arsenal?
I mean, I'm not surprised that new contracts coming. I've always been relaxed on this one. I've been relaxed on quite a few contracts, to be fair. I've heard a lot of people sort of say, well, he's definitely not going to sign because Real Madrid are coming. And of course, it's difficult when Real Madrid are coming. But right now, I think it's the club he came through at. His mate Ifanieri's there. It looks like he's also going to sign a new contract, by the way. They're there
Got my
together.
next point, mate.
Oh, sorry. He's playing he's playing regularly in the first team. Okay, maybe not in the position he sort of came through at. Of course, he's a central midfielder by trade. But the way Arsenal play, he almost plays most of his games in central midfield. He's into the England setup. I just never thought for a second that he wasn't going to sign an extension. I'm glad he has. I think, I said that the Gabriel contract would start a domino. I think it wouldn't shock me to see in the next 3 to 5 months, Saka, Odegaard, Martinelli, Wanieri, sort of those sort of players follow. Hopefully Saliba, that would be the one I would be worried about. In terms of his long-term future, I mean, long-term future wouldn't shock me if it's centre midfield, but I think all the time Arteta is there, he's probably going to be the left back because, as I said earlier, the way the left back plays almost plays in midfield. And he's shown himself really capable at left back. He was the only player in the Champions League to not be dribbled past in the knockout stages at all that had played over 50 minutes or something daft like that. And of course, he played many more than 50 minutes. He's shown himself capable. Arteta has been after a player that can do both the attacking side and the defensive side in the game. And I think in many ways has found it. I think at some point, of course, he will have a dip in form because he is still so young. And I think it's going to be really important that Arsenal get that support. But I think that was another reason why I'm not shocked to see him sign his contract extension. I don't know what you think on that, Lee, but that's my view.
Again, I wasn't surprised on Lewis Skelly signing his contract. The only thing I'm thinking about a little bit is his long-term position, because I'm not altogether sure that Thomas Partey's going to stay.
No, it's an interesting point. That I was wondering if we'd bring it up. But do you think he comes in as a 6, or do you think he goes into a left-sided 8?
I think the left-sided 8 probably works better for him, probably.
And Rice goes where, or does he become a squad player in that position with Rice and Zubimendi starting?
Difficult one, isn't it? Really difficult one. Because until obviously we sort of spitballing before anything's actually happened. I don't know. It's because you almost feel. And well, here's what I think. Yeah, okay. So until Arsenal get potentially another left back, and yeah, I do think they do need another left back because Kieran has obviously gone. Um, he will stay there, but long term, I do see Lewis Skelly going further forward in in the side, where that fits in terms of everyone else. Does that put Declan in the on the other side with Zubimendi, and but then when you stick Odegaard, does it mean a change of formation? That might be a thing as well.
Yeah, I think I can't just go in more than 3 central midfielders though.
Yeah,
You know, so I don't see the change of formation, or certainly not to accommodate Miles Lewis-Skelly there. And as I say, I could see it happening in a world where another manager comes in, but I don't think it under this manager anytime soon. But I think I'm not sure we would bring in another left back unless a defender were to go, because I think right now you've got Calafiori, Miles Lewis-Skelly, Timber can play there. Tommy has at some point to come back, but probably not until around Christmas time. And
Hmm.
and you've got Zinchenko still here at the moment as well. So I think there's plenty of cover there. But I think should Kivior and Zinchenko go, I think someone like a Hato would be perfect, can play left centre half or left back.
Yeah.
But just on Thomas Partey, I mean, I've always been sort of torn on whether to give him the extension or not. And I think in some ways Arsenal's smart to not give him an extension in a world where he's asking for a pay rise, which is reportedly why he's not signing a new deal. Because, while he wasn't injury prone last year, he's been here, 4 or 5 years? And that was the first time he's not been injury prone. But I think I, on
Yeah.
balance, would like him to stay simply because I think it's one less thing to do this summer. But Arsenal reportedly linked to a young midfielder from Sevilla that I talked about a few weeks ago. He's called Aguime. He's very young. He's a 6, likes to win the ball, but but is really comfortable in the ball and a progressive passer. And I think Zubimendi is the starter. Obviously, and he comes in sort of as that backup player there, and you still have experienced players like Rice and Marino that can play 6. So I think I don't see Arsenal using Miles Lewis-Skelly in midfield. I think someone like an Aguime at 20 million euros, probably tops, is a very decent player to bring in that position. And essentially what you're doing, and I've sort of talked about this particular uses for the Kepa money. So we were going to sign Garcia at 25 mil. We signed Kepa at 5. If Partey goes, you basically spend, if it happens, of course, you spent your money you had originally allocated for your goalkeeper to replace Partey, and you still got your goalkeeper. So Arsenal back square. Ideally, I'd like to see that sort of move to a Rodrigo type player, sort of ideal world. But, I think something like that could be a really good and really interesting fit. And it reduces the age profile in that midfield, which is still quite old, relatively speaking. Zubimendi 26, Rice probably around the same age as he, Moreno 29, Partey is over 30. I think something like that might work, but that's hypotheticated on Partey going,
32.
which is there you go. I thought he was 31, but I know you're right. But yeah, I think that would be interesting. But of course, Partey may well stay.
From a lot of what I'm hearing and reading, probably not. And I'll just say I tell you what I'm reading right now, and obviously this is from a team talk sort, so take it with a pinch of salt. Talks held with Marino at Fenerbahce and the new AC Milan manager Max Allegri. But again, the Milan one I don't see happening. I think for the same reason that you're thinking of.
Money. Yeah, exactly. And I can't see Arsenal selling Moreno simply because it gives them too much to do, right? You don't, I mean, obviously if a silly bid comes in, but Moreno, we saw, I know he was in a different position, but we saw him really start to adapt once he started to get game time. And I always maintained that his big issue last year in those early games was he got that shoulder injury, where he broke his shoulder in a freak injury, didn't have preseason at all with Arsenal, which speaks to the point of getting players in, right? And then had to find his way into the side with yet another injury coming soon afterwards. In the cut and thrust of a Premier League season. but you saw once he started to settle what he could do, even if it was in a slightly different position. So, I don't think Arsenal should be moving him on at all unless a silly bid comes in.
Yeah, with him, I think he's a very valuable player. He will certainly have minutes somewhere at some stage. I don't necessarily see him as a starter. I don't necessarily think that's his role. I think he's possibly almost the natural replacement for Jorginho, really.
Yeah, I said it last summer. People were sort of saying it's an underwhelming signing, and it was. Arsenal wanted Zubimendi, right? Zubimendi didn't come, so what did they do? They went to a backup player, who because they wanted to try again for Zubimendi this summer. It looks like that plan's going to work, and basically they signed a squad player last summer because they couldn't get the starter, and they signed the starter this summer to replace a squad player. They've done it the wrong way around, but sometimes that's how the market goes. I always felt he was going to be a squad player, and I think he's going to be a decent one. Ironically, that's what I said about Havertz. I said, give it a year or two and he'll be a squad player, and I think that's where he's going to find himself.
Squad player that can certainly score a few goals. That's the thing as well. He's going to need some sort of run of games in the pre-season to get himself back into the swing of things, because bear in mind he was just getting back into things right at the back end of the season.
Absolutely.
So don't expect miracles off him straight away. I wouldn't mind betting he'll be in training before anybody else in the pre-season.
Yeah, I think so, because he's that committed and that hardworking. I mean, I think in terms of Havertz, I think he could well hit the season ground running, because of course everyone is sort of out of sort of game form, if you like, because they've just had the sort of pre-season break and holiday. So I think he will be absolutely, I think he'll be absolutely fine. I'm not concerned about it at all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And as we said earlier, ultimately he won't be the starter sort of by the end of the season, but he could well be the starter at the start. And I think, given, as we said earlier, those fixtures being so difficult at the start of the season, it could well be quite an important sort of asset to Arsenal, is that familiarity as sort of teams try and find their way back into the new season, because they know where each other are, and it could be an asset.
Yeah, I think so. Right. I do want to read. I know I put it on the screen a little bit ago. I will put it on the screen again. Emerson's comment saying about Lewis Skelly. I don't think he will move as he's happy with his squad number, and he's got his mum is his agent. New contract before the season starts in August. I wouldn't be surprised if that's any earlier. And we already mentioned Ethan Waneri, who'd be close on the heels on this one. That was what the tweet said by Fabrizio Romano. Do you have any concerns regarding Ethan coming up to the new season? This is why I asked the question, because he's currently in the under-21s tournament right now. I think me and you spoke about him getting quite a bit of game time as a very young man at the end of last season. Do you have any concerns about him starting the new season, or do you think he might get an extended rest?
I think Arsenal would be. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Arsenal could do with giving him a slightly extended rest. So they're due back on the 7th. He came back even 1 week, but say 10 days later. I don't think that puts him massively behind, because he still have sort of minutes in his legs from the under-21s and that sort of fitness. But I think it is going to. We spoke about it last season. He's going to be sort of the Arteta's Phil Foden in terms of the way he's going to be introduced to the squad, and I think that's smart. You don't want to overextend him, and he can feel his way back in. We won't need him to start early doors, so he can be a little bit behind in pre-season. And he will still, if he came back even on the 21st, he would still have 3 weeks of pre-season training, full pre-season training before the start of the season. So I think he could hit the ground running. I think he will sign a new contract. I don't think that will happen while he's away with the 21s, and it may not even happen while he's away on holiday, but I think it will happen. And I think he's got a big future at the club. And again, patience is going to be required with a young man like that. But the good news is he's going to be a squad player this season, which means he can get his minutes, and he can get it in a less pressured environment, because he's not having to do what Saka did when Saka came through. And that's not to criticise Arsenal. We weren't in the best of places then, but almost the team relied entirely on Saka at points, and in some ways it still does. He's a more experienced player these days. the team doesn't have to rely on Ethan Wanyeri right now, and I think again that is the smart decision for Ethan Wanyeri and his development.
Yeah, I think you're right. Now, you know, sometimes you say to me off camera that sometimes our best work comes a little bit as we're riffing. It's almost like I'm ripping apart any sort of script because things are changing in front of my eyes.
Well, the thing is, I can't remember what the script was, so I've been riffing the entire thing.
That's okay. Unscripted, uncooked, and all that sort of rubbish. Let me just very briefly, because I don't think either of us would expect this Portuguese player to return to Arsenal, and that is on loan Fabio Vieira with Porto. Um, and people are saying, "Oh, he's still with the club." Yeah, he is, but technically he's over at Porto because they've got the World Club. I knew I'd say this wrong. This Club World Cup competition still going on with Porto.
How did
And
Porto qualify, by the way? Does anyone know?
how did they qualify?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know, mate. If I'm right, and you'd have to go back in time a little bit because I think the qualification of this all came about 6 months ago, and I'm sure there was a big thing saying, "Oh, Arsenal haven't got enough points or something in however they work it out to qualify for it." So therefore, I think places were already confirmed in this competition a long time ago. Uh, I have to look back in time and how this happened, but yeah, they are there. Porto are there, and basically Vieira is saying that his short term concentration is with Porto for the summer, and then he'll sort out what he's going to do.
He's given the media answer, basically.
Yeah, and that's the right thing to do before you can't.
I'm not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you can't be saying anything out of turn. He's got to say the right thing. That's his media training. Fair play to him.
What do you think his future lies? I mean, that might be the question you were about to ask me, but
I wouldn't be surprised if they negotiate a move from whether Porto will sign him or not. Might be another matter because I'm not sure he pulled up any trees particularly. He did okay. I won't say he did any more than okay during his spell in the league, without having all the stats in front of me and being that I'm really struggling with my Chromebook at the moment. I can't really look at that up. But
I can help you out, Lee. So I mean,
go ahead.
the story of his season was poor to start with. Lost his place in the side, had a disciplinary issue, recovered well, got his head down, worked hard, impressed the coach, got back into the side, and finished the season relatively strongly. Do I think that's going to be enough for him to stay in Porto at the Arsenal price tag of probably 20 million is what we're looking for? Then no. I'm not sure Arsenal get 20 million, by the way. I think all things sort of point to me towards another loan. But I'm wondering if I'm Arsenal, do I take 15 million plus a sell on for him? And whether Porto might go to that.
I think it's a case of, I don't think we're totally convinced of what your future. So I think it might be time for a permanent move. That probably works better for the club, and they can move on. But whether, like you say, if they can negotiate a deal or not, is a tricky one, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think he's better suited to not being in the Premier League. He's too slight for the Premier League. And that sort of points to Italy or Spain or Portugal. And I think given how he has generally struggled to pull up trees in Portugal, it speaks probably more to a Portugal move rather than one of those stronger leagues. But yeah, I think if Arsenal get some money in, I think that will be really helpful for this summer and add to the transfer kitty. Lee, I'm not sure if you're there, but thoughts on Sambi Lokonga, of course, another one out on loan. Whether what his future looks like. He said that he is away from Arsenal and he would want to go, which I think again is probably sensible. But
I've got 2 words for Sammy Lukonga. See ya. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. No.
yeah, he was a low risk, high reward signing that's definitely not worked out right.
Yeah, there's possibly been a few of them. I think Marquinhos was another one of them as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's reminiscent of where Arsenal were at the time, which was we were looking for squad players at a time where we weren't very good, and therefore, your sort of pool of players that would be interested in being a squad player is much smaller, and therefore the risk of it not working out is higher. But
Yeah, I
certainly
agree.
they neither worked out.
I mean, what Arsenal can't be doing is going for that sort of standard of player. Is that right? Is that not?
Yeah.
I don't want to be harsh, but you understand what I mean. In that we got through to the semi-final of the Champions League last season. We'd be looking to improve on that. That's what we need to do as a club. We need to improve. We have to raise our what's that word?
Standards.
Oh yeah.
But
That's
I mean,
the one.
but Arsenal, to your point here, and I think this is what you're alluding to, Arsenal aren't
Yeah.
shopping in that market anymore. And the reason they're not shopping in that market anymore is because we got significantly better. So I don't think we need to worry about that. The problem now is how do you move these players on because we've moved beyond that market and they can't get in the team.
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. Well, we shall see, and we wait eagerly with anticipation as Arsenal will finally announce the signing, maybe sometime in the next
few days,
decade.
I mean, again, as we said earlier,
yeah.
Look, the time to panic is if no one at all has come in by pre-season, then you start to worry. But you definitely want them in by the time you go on your pre-season tour to, is it Singapore this year?
Singapore, when they start, AC Milan, I think it's Newcastle following that, and then Tottenham.
Yeah.
And I understand if Tottenham have got anything about them, they will put their trophy on their line.
What, the Audi Cup?
No, the Europa League. If they want to be champions, they've got to defend their title, right?
Oh, dear me, I can't see him doing that.
No, I know. I'm just being silly.
I know you are. In all seriousness, though, I do like their appointment of Thomas Frank. I think that's a sensible one. I hate to say
it. Absolutely. I've seen the first pictures of him with the Tottenham badge on today.
Yeah, I think it's a right level for Frank, and I think it's a really good pickup from Spurs. I hate to say it, but there you go.
You wonder if that puts him in good position to pick up Brian Moambo as well, ahead of United.
Well, yes, possibly. Although reportedly his preference is still Manchester United, and I'm not surprised given he's been offered wages of in excess of 200,000 reportedly.
How much?
Over 200,000 a week reportedly. Which is why Arsenal, who sort of had a minor interest and obviously didn't show the interest, nor were they offering sort of the game time that United would, understandably so.
That's even more than what Sane wanted, isn't it?
No, Sane to match his wages here because of the Turkey tax, we'd have had to offer in excess of 400,000 a week.
Wow.
Sane, because obviously the Turkish tax level is much smaller, so he's not being paid.
Okay.
That would be the equivalent here because of our tax system. But yeah, reportedly over 200,000.
You'll be the one to know about that.
Indeed. But what I was going to say, but yeah, I mean, I just don't see Tottenham offering that, and I don't think that's good value for money either. Much as I like Mbeumo, I was keen on him in January, sort of when because we were sort of who's a good enough player to be a squad player in the January market, and he was definitely that could come in and do something now.
He would have been an upgrade on Raheem, wouldn't he? Because Raheem couldn't hit a barn door, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, as I said at the time,
I'm worried about his career, by the way, going forward. Bless him.
I think we've killed it, right? I mean, let's not forget that, before he came to us, he was 15 goal and assist the previous season. So I didn't think it was a bad pickup. I mean, I understood the sort of theory here, I understood that we needed an extra wide forward. I then didn't understand Nelson going out because it still left us one short. But I understood the theory behind Nelson out on loan, Sterling in, because we paid half of Sterling's wages, which was basically what we paid Nelson. So Fulham picked up that. So it was net cost neutral with no fee. And basically the feeling was that Sterling, off the back of a 15-goal season, would be good enough to be a squad player, and you get Nelson playing regular minutes to up his price to sell him. So you kind of understood the sort of, theory behind that. Unfortunately, it didn't work out at all.
Let's just see what Emerson's just put in the chat there. Saying, okay. Players that weren't on international duty going to a mini training camp in Spain before pre-season about the 3rd or 4th of July.
I hadn't heard that, but I imagine Emerson's normally on the ball on these things, right? So
he would know probably a lot more than a lot of people from his experience with the academy and all what goes on behind there as well.
There's also the fact that this has been rumoured as potentially happening, a sort of family sort of invited and a get together before pre-season. They did it last year as well, so
right.
that doesn't surprise me. But really good intel there from Emerson.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emerson. Much appreciated as always. I think the only one, and I don't know how much you're going to know and be able to contribute onto this one, but I will talk about on the women's side of things. Was when Arsenal picked up Chloe Kelly off Manchester City on loan. I think that in Arsenal women's season, it really turned things around in a really positive manner. A lot of positive energy about her coming in and her impact on the field. You could see it. She was happy. She showed a bit of passion getting back into the game again. And obviously, it was just a loan spell, and in that loan spell, she picked up the Champions League trophy. Just a bit of news that I saw yesterday that Arsenal are talking to her about getting a full-time deal again, but there are other clubs in for her as well. And there'll be Manchester City there'll be Manchester United, and Chelsea. Chelsea, of course, defending league champions. But I believe Arsenal are in prime position to sign her. I think she's primarily wanting to re-sign for Arsenal, but again, until it actually happens, she's in a little bit of limbo. I would imagine she'd be wanting a deal done before the Lionesses kick off in the Euros tournament in the summer.
Yeah, I'd be, is it a 3-week period of exclusivity for Arsenal to sort of get this deal done? Is it
something like that? I think yes.
And I think you're right. I think she was part of the two transformative things that happened, right, with the Arsenal women. The other was obviously, his names escape me, but the old
Renee
coach,
Schlecker's coming in.
Well, I was going to say the old coach went, and things had clearly deteriorated.
Jonas.
Yeah, that's it. And it wasn't, Arsenal were never as bad as they were in that sort of little period before he went. It was sort of very reminiscent of sort of Emery in some ways, right? Everyone had lost faith. There was no tactical identity, no idea on what was going on. Just everything just looked like it was please God end as hell, right? And Renee came in and she picked it straight up again, and the talent was there. And you have to praise her to the rooftop for what she did. But I don't think it was quite as bad as it looked. But she deserves a lot of credit. I'm taking nothing away from her. But Chloe Kelly was a big part of that, as you say, that direct energy, that enthusiasm. And that was a really, really smart pickup from Arsenal. And it's, I think it will make a big difference to the ladies, her coming back. But also, I think you can sort of see the attraction for her wanting to come back. And I think that gives a really big pull to Arsenal. The only potential might be, as you say, Manchester United interested is if she wants to sort of return back to the Manchester area, because of course she was with City. But hopefully, I think her time with Arsenal will sort of persuade her to come back. And they are European champions after all.
Yeah, I mean, my memory just go back to the January transfer window. United were in for her then, but she did choose her former club because that's where she felt more comfortable. And I think once she knew Arsenal were in for her, I think there was no going back there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Emerson,
so
thank you very much. I'll get to that.
I was just going to ask you about this as well. So Emerson's seen the script, but I can't remember. But he's clearly seen it.
Go on then, Dom. Take it, mate. Because you did a video on this earlier on.
Yeah, I did, which means I'd have to remember what the hell I said. Delayed me going to bed last night. So Emerson rightly mentioning that we haven't mentioned that one of Arteta's backroom staff has gone to be the manager of Parma. This is Carlos Curta. I've butchered his name now, but he's the youngest manager in Serie A history. You know, former players, including Granit Xhaka, have spoken about what a massive impact he has on the squad in terms of both his tactical knowledge and just sort of the enthusiasm and the sort of connectivity he brings around the place. And he said that it was obvious to him that he was going to go and be a manager in a non too distant future. That has now happened. But thoughts on this, Lee? How do you think it sort of affects Arsenal going into the season?
At this stage, although it's sad to see someone go, especially someone who's as highly regarded as he appears to be, I'm not sure I knew his name particularly well before all this happened over the last couple of days. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a new voice in the changing room. I think it's, you know, I wouldn't mind betting this is where we might see someone we might have seen before in an Arsenal shirt come back into the fold. I'm talking about Santi Cazorla, ladies and gentlemen. I wonder if there's a role for Santi Cazorla here.
So, yeah, go on.
But again, it's just that there's also a lot of coaches behind the scenes as well. You have to bear in mind as well. Some of which we won't necessarily know the names of, but you know, it's as much as it's sad to see a person go from the club. I just wish them the very best in appointment, especially if he's been named. I think he's the manager of Palm, as Emerson says.
Is his first senior management job, yeah.
And
I mean,
he's quite
29.
young in getting that manager's
29.
job as well. 29, yeah.
Yeah.
So fair play. It's a big job to fill the boots of Nevio Scala back in the day.
And blast in the past.
Oh well, see the thing is the Cup Winners' Cup, when it, with them European competitions actually meant something. It's actually quite fresh in my memory. I could picture
it might be 30 years ago, but I can remember it too.
Yeah. I'll tell you who's just jumped into the chat as well. Jez Collins is in there under his new branding. Jez is Arsenal. Good evening, mate. I hope you're doing very well, my friend. It's good to see you.
Evening. Thanks for joining. I was going to say just on this one. I mean, I think he was so highly regarded that he was promoted following the departure of Steve Round. You know, so I think that kind of shows sort of how highly rated Arteta, sort of how the esteem Arteta held him in. I think this is a blow from Arsenal from the point of view of this close to pre-season. You're not wanting to lose a coach of his sort of esteem around the place and ability. But I think you're absolutely right to point out the opportunity is there too, which is a new voice. And I think that is important. We sort of seen Pep sort of shuffle things around much more than Arsenal are going to. And I think much more than Arsenal need to. I don't think Arsenal need to go to it to the extent that Pep has at City. I'm not sure Pep did at City, but you know, I defer to others that know City better. But I think another new voice coming in would be good. I mean, obviously, Santi Cazorla has been linked as of Jack Wilshere. I don't think Wilshere will come in. I think, you know, he had a little taste of managing Norwich towards the end of the season. And I think he will probably want to sort of furrow his own path a little bit at the moment. I think Santi Cazorla will depend on what he wants to do with Oviedo. I think it is he is at the moment. You know, where he's still playing a little bit, of course. But
amazingly, scored a great free kick the other week. Didn't see that.
Yeah, in the playoff as well, right? I mean, he's some player. I just wish he was not quite so injured when he was at Arsenal because he's phenomenal. But a name I heard today, and this is Charles Watts bringing this one to mind. And someone apparently we were talking to when there were reports about him leaving potentially in January for a manager's job, is Gabriel Heinze, the former
Man United defender. Whoa!
He is currently unattached at the moment and back in Argentina. Arsenal apparently were interviewing him and sort of saying, would you be interested in coming should one of our coaching staff leave? Apparently negotiations went very well. He was very interested in coming, impressed the Arsenal coaching staff and management team. Obviously, that would have been Jason Ito as part of this sort of talk going on there. I mean, of course, he's player recruitment, but he would have been involved in that. It's now Berta, so maybe, you know, something else there. But I think, well, on transfers, I think Berta's role it should be massively significant, equal to or at least to Mikel Arteta. I think on the coaching staff wide, I think this is much more in the Mikel Arteta sort of sphere of what should be happening, and therefore that is a name that I think we should probably be watching out for.
Well, there was a bombshell that I didn't expect to be dropped this evening.
There you go. 57 varieties of Heinz. Other ketchups are available, but this is Gabriel Heinz, sir.
Very funny, very good. He's writing his own jokes, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, you can tell they were absolutely awful.
2 peas in a pod, me and you, mate. I tell you that much. Is there anything else that we need to cover this evening, mate? Because I think I'm about out. Yeah,
I think we have covered a lot of ground. We've covered what? Left back, centre forwards, left wingers, party, coaching staff exits, you name it. Goalkeeper, very briefly. We've covered it all. I think that's probably about it. Lewis Skelly's contract, Wanyeri. It's been an action-packed show.
It has. And do you know what the important thing is? We're being serious about the whole thing. Exactly. This is our catchphrase these days. We have to be more serious about the thing.
We had sing-alongs.
We did?
We
had 2 sing-alongs.
Yeah, you had a lovely rendition of "We're going on a summer holiday" to kick us off.
Absolutely.
On to just the 2 of us. It was
just if you didn't see it at the start, you must go back and watch it.
Oh, absolutely! It was a cracking start to the show.
Absolutely was. Right. John, before we get going, I will say thank you very much for jumping on a live with us here on Gooner Gathering. Of course, we are live on your channel as well, which is Arsenal Domination. So what is in the pipeline for you then? I know you briefly went on and spoke about it earlier on.
Yeah, so I've I had a video out today on obviously the coaching departure. But tomorrow, 2 videos now. One on the Miles Lewis Skelly contract, because we're live tonight. I have delayed that till tomorrow, and the other on the fixtures, which we touched on briefly tonight, but they will be shorts out tomorrow. Obviously, things are a bit quiet at the moment, so I'm not just putting content out for the sake of it.
You and me both, mate.
But I think
same old. Good careers, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it's Thursday tomorrow. It's Sesko's turn.
Absolutely, we'll do that. No problem.
But Friday is Gyökeres. Keep with the schedule. I
thought Friday was Kepa Day.
Yes, Friday's Kepa. Yes, Saturday it's Watkins. So Sunday for Gyökeres.
Okay.
Have you got anything coming out, Lee?
I might just cut down your Heinz bombshell and put that as a short in the morning. But until something major drops and it's like official, I'm not one just to put out a video for the heck of it. It's nice to do a live like this because the discussion's fun, but we did have points that were actually or are very nearly close to happening today. So that's basically why we're here. So we'll see it when we get there. Is a line that my former. Hello.
He's pulled out the same gag.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't help it, mate. Before we sign off, of course, you can find us on the social media. Of course, you can find me at Gooner Lee Meads on X. You can find us on at Gooner Gathering, and of course at AFC Domination is where you can find our distinguished colleague to my right. So thank you very much for watching. If you've got this far in the video, and if you haven't hit the like button, please do so before we go off air. Thank you very much for being here. When something happens and breaks, we'll be the place to be. We'll see you later. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
Bye all.